on scariest places on earth. A haunting by a Jamaican witch.
I wouldn't take this woman very lightly.
It could be a dangerous thing.
Magnolia Lane Plantation. Sounds beautiful.
I don't even want to go in there.
That's the dying room.
A mother's worst nightmare.
It's sad she can't go back to her pretty little room.
A prison of lost souls.
So there's a lot of suffering that's going on there. I think it's quite possible that something's left behind.
It would be hell on earth.
What makes a place scary? Is it the lingering evil force of a person who once dominated a location? That's the case at Rose Hall, Montego Bay, Jamaica. In 1820, a beautiful and diabolical young woman named Annie Mae Patterson moved to Rose Hall from Haiti, where she had been trained in the black arts of voodoo. Soon after, her 3 husbands died mysteriously, and many other bodies turned up, until Annie was murdered. Now the ghostly white witch of Rose Hall keeps an eye on the place and keeps unwelcome visitors out.
Montego Bay, Jamaica. Rose Hall Greathouse.
The house here was started first in 1750 by a wealthy English planter whose name was George Ash. He named this house after his wife Rose, so that's why this house is called Rose Hall Greathouse.
I've been working here for the past 3 years and 6 months. Officially, when we like upstairs cleaning, we like hear foot's coming up the step. This is the sound that I heard coming up the stairs.
After John and Rose died, because they never had any children, the house was passed on to the grandnephew, John Rose Palmer. He met and married Annie Mae Patterson in 1820. She was the second lady to have lived inside this house, and she's the one that they nicknamed the White Witch of Rose Hall.
When I walk by her graveside at night, you hear those little crickets, cricks, cricks, click, clicks. You are in the spirit world.
The White Witch's treatment of her slaves was heartless and barbaric.
If the slaves were caught like telling lies, she would cut out their tongues. She would even spit on them if she don't even like the way they looked at her. She would make love to the slaves and kill them afterwards. She would also have bear traps placed under the bushes for catching the feet of the runaway slaves, so she used them as human trap.
The slaves were thrown into a cell 16 feet below the ground to suffocate to death.
She would place them there without food, water, light, and medical attention, so that most of them would die from heat and hunger. It is said because of how she was so cruel, a servant girl tried once to poison her in a cup of milk.
The White Witch discovered the plot, and the servant was beheaded.
She ordered a high voodoo priest to walk all the way from Montego Bay, barefooted with that bloody head in a basket on his or her head.
At night, 5 to 6, I closed all the windows and went home, because after 6 o'clock, when the ghosts start to come in, as soon as I get closing the door, I feel different, you know, I feel like somebody around me. So I close quickly and get out.
This is Annie's favorite spot. She would either love to sit on it or stand and watch her slaves being whipped or hanged in the courtyard. That was like her main entertainment.
2 centuries later, the White Witch's spirit is said to still manifest her tyranny.
Now, the Henderson family were moving in the house here when their maid was upstairs cleaning one day, and she fell from Annie's balcony
and broke her neck and died.
Her last words were said to be, leave me alone, as if somebody was really pushing her over the balcony.
So we think it's Annie who pushed her off over there.
Yes, I believe this evil spirit could be killing somebody.
Raised by a voodoo priestess in Haiti, the White Witch learned the evil power of the craft.
When the slaves had their babies, she would have them tied in ants' nests and let the ants beat those babies to death. So she got the skulls from these babies to practice her voodoo on. I think that's one of the most cruel things she had ever done.
One afternoon I was at the West End, and I heard this sound similarly to a baby when a young baby is crying. So I went over to the east side just to watch what was going on. I listened to what was going on. And it was the cat. It was a cat in the east garden. And to my surprise, it sounded just like when a little baby would cry.
That cat looked so vicious, like he would just jump at you and tear you up. He tried to scare us. The spirit what was in the white cat is the lady of the witch of the house.
During her tyranny, the closest people to the White Witch mysteriously disappeared.
She poisoned the first husband by pouring some arsenic in his coffee. She claims he was a drunkard, so she had to get rid of him. The second husband, she stabbed him several times with a knife in his sleep. And just to make sure he was dead, she poured some hot oil in his ears. She strangled the third husband with the help from a slave lover she had. His name was Takoo.
The partnership would come to a bigger end.
She fell in love with the bookkeeper, but the bookkeeper was not in love with her because he really was in love with Millicent, who was Takoo's granddaughter.
The White Witch cast a deadly spell.
Within 9 days, Millicent, she withered and she died. Takoo, he was very, very angry because he loved his granddaughter very much. So he went up into Annie's bedroom one night seeking revenge.
Takoo strangled her to death in revenge of his granddaughter Millicent. It was neighboring people of Rose Hall who buried her because when she died, because she was such an evil witch, the slaves did not want to touch her body because they were so afraid of her in life and in death.